Hello everyone, Aridlin here and welcome back. Time for another ranking video. This time I'm going to be ranking Swordsmen. And Swordsmen have, honestly, probably the most diversity of all unit types. It's hard to say what is better than another. I'm mostly going off my own personal preferences when it comes to some of these rankings. But I feel like a lot of you are going to agree with my choices. Okay, let's begin. At number 39, we have the Gundabad Orc Warriors. Probably the most unimpressive unit, and it has nothing to it except that the Thrall Masters regenerate them slightly faster than the other Thralls. But compare them, and the other Thralls are just so much better. You're only paying 100 for one of the two Rude Owl units, and a few more extra things to get the Wolf Riders if you want to actually go for cavalry. So I just don't see why you would ever want this unit. They're only slightly better than Mordor Orcs, and they cost 200 because even though they are free, the Thrall Master still costs you the resources to get. And even this is even taking into consideration the upgraded version of the Gundabad Orcs that you get with the tier 3 power. I'm just putting them both here because they're both still garbage. Number 38, the Moria Goblin Swordsman. This unit has two main weaknesses. One, it costs 3 times as much as the Settlement Goblin Swordsman type. And secondly, it has poison, but you have to proc the poison. Those two things just make this unit very uninteractive. The only thing they have about them is the fact they can swarm and they are cheap. But there's also another unit that can swarm and is cheaper and is way more accessible. Number 37, the Lasarnak Axemen. I'm putting this one solo down just because their one thing is that they weaken enemy buildings. Other than that, every other swordsman unit of Gondor is better. And you'll have a long list to go through. Also, another thing to mention is, because this unit doesn't have a particular stance, it's losing out extra buffs from that. It's competing with one of the best melee infantry at the same tier from the signal fire, so it's hard to actually give this unit any real credit. I think if they also pierced armor and did something similar to the Rivendell Guardians, it'd feel too niche and repetitive with its effect. It's still an effect that has not been changed since this unit's release, way back in 4.0. So I think a small change to this unit could really bring it back. Number 36, the Dogledor Orcs. I've insulted the spearmen and the archers of this outpost. I might as well insult the swordsmen as well. It has a bit more credibility because of the fact it's still free, but again, a passive ability that does poison damage, which is about 2 HP a tick, is not even worth considering. They need something can be done to give this unit a bit more flair, a bit more love even. But poison is not that thing. Number 35, the Arid Mithrin Zealots. This unit has got good potential. When it first was released, I actually enjoyed making these units because they were a bit more different. Even though their ability, which originally was to negate all kinds of poison and such, was hardly even considered. But giving them movement speed, when they already have very low movement speed base, doesn't make it quite right. Considering that there's another dwarf faction, a sub-faction, the Aridlin Dwarves, that have a movement speed boost, but it actually feels impactful because they have more base movement speed and more ways to buff that movement speed. It doesn't feel right for a dwarf unit to have a movement speed buff when it's meant to be this tanky. I feel like some higher revenge damage or specialist damage to fight against monsters, considering this is a faction of dwarves that actually is known for killing dragons, and they have dragons on their shields. Maybe some monster killing potential is better than movement speed. Number 34, the Goblin Swordsman. The base Goblin Swordsman you can build from settlements all across the map. Only costs 50 resources. That should be illegal, how powerful that is. it gives you potential to spam this unit to a terrifying degree. But of course, it is a goblin unit, so it is quite weak. It can be cut down by literally any other unit, except for maybe orcs, but orcs just are that kind of unit. But even with upgrades, just spamming this unit just works wonders if you use it in the right scenario. It's a shame they have nothing else to them, because they could have been ranked a little bit higher. But taking into consideration the fact they have literally got nothing else other than spam potential, which quite a few factions, honestly, have just as good spam potential with units that are way better. Number 33, the Wildman of Dunland. I've done a bit more testing with this unit. It seems like their pillage doesn't work on lairs. I don't know why, because it worked with the axe throws when I did the testing for them, so I'm a bit conflicted as to what to believe. But yeah, the pillage ability makes this unit stand out among most other units. It's a bit of a shame that the orcs of the goblins of Moria have, not goblins of Moria, just goblins in general have other tools in their kit that do similar things. But this unit still stands out in the way they can get an early upgrade in the torches. However, I have to say, unless you have Wolfgar already high level and on the field and giving you a bunch of bonuses for your Wildman, you should not get the torches. It can actually be a bit of a trick to spend the money on this when you could spend money on an extra Wildman of Dunland unit. You could save up the money to get an upgrade to your main base. It's all these other little things that in the early game, Isengard's economy just is in that sore period. It needs to actually conserve all its resources and only use them on things that are necessary, which unfortunately the Wildman of Dunland fall off so quickly, in my experience at least. I find switching out from this unit as soon as I have access to the Orokai, just because of how much more potential they have. But still, it's better than the Urukai Scouts in some regards. Number 32, the Laketown Swordsman. Their one ability is that their hits slow enemies by quite a significant amount, and cavalry even more so when they're getting trampled, which is okay, except for the fact that the second part where they get trampled, they slow the enemy down. The unit's probably going to be dead by the time they get trampled, let's be honest here. This unit has got the potential to do some good work, but compared to the other units that already have boosted movement speed for being in Aridlin, their dwarves move incredibly fast. Being able to slow down the enemy doesn't feel as significant. I feel like in the dwarves of Erebor and Iron Hills, this ability would be way more significant, but being locked on an outpost and then also being not as significant kind of makes it fall off. Any faction that has a slow-moving infantry roster, for example, Angmar, Mordor, for example, the other two dwarf factions, I'd say those are the factions that you want this kind of movement speed debilitating effect on. So if you're playing a co-op battle with a friend, then you could go this unit and just keep them around your ally, and that could help to keep the enemy closed in, because there are some factions where you can just walk away from a fight if you know you're not going to win, and others you know you have to stay and fight. This is one of the times you can have to stay and fight. Number 31, the Dunedin Swordsman, has some significantly noticeable strengths and weaknesses. Main strengths being really cheap for a faction that has a lot of expensive units, but on the other side it has slightly lower stats than most other units of its type and size. Their movement speed boost is cool, it's good, it's effective, it works. And the knockback resistance is okay, so it keeps it alive from getting trampled sometimes. But it still won't stop them from actually dying from being trampled or just being stuck there. And then you can get upgrades quite easily with Halberad. But then again, you also have to get Halberad and level them up. So there's all these positives and negatives. You have to keep weighing them up. It's definitely an early game unit you keep for early game purposes, because your early game elves are expensive. So Dunedin are a decent count to the need for extra economy, if you want to play that way. I'm really trying to convince myself about this one. It definitely belongs here. It's good, but it's not good enough. Number 30, we have the Goblin Town Plunderers. Now, what puts this over the other two Goblin units? Firstly, the fact they can summon other goblins to the field, only temporary, but you know, they're goblins, so they don't exactly have a long shelf life. But as long as you have the Great Goblin around, you can have with every Goblin Town Plunderer unit spawn a new unit of Goblin Town Goblins. Not only that, but if you get the tier 3 power and select it, the High King's Authority, whatever it's called, if you select the Goblin Town base as the place you're giving the authority to for a time, these guys disable enemy buildings. Do you know how disgusting that is? That also includes the summons that have just disappeared. You can just stop an enemy from bringing up anything else to be able to fight you. Also, the individual stats of these goblins are much better than either of the other goblin counterparts we have seen so far. Definitely a round of applause for this unit. Underrated, but definitely should not be underestimated. Number 29, the Gondor/Arnor soldiers. With Denethor for Gondor, you can make this unit cost 100 from the barracks at an increased recruitment speed, and the only downside is they can't make a formation or get upgrades, which in the early stages of the game, they're not going to live that long. This unit does have some amazing potential in both Gondor and Arnor, but as I have mentioned already, there are way better swordsman units you can invest in. This is definitely a unit, if you don't have access to settlements, this is obviously going to be the one unit you're going to be spamming a lot of. And thanks to Denethor, you can do it at a rate that no other faction can really compete with if you go double barracks, for example. It is impressive what this unit is capable of. And to say it hasn't really changed much from Battle for Middle-earth 1 other than the unit size, this unit is definitely worth giving a good enough appraisal to. Number 28, the Orc Warriors. This is the pride of Mordor, and it doesn't have much pride because this unit does suck. It has got some terrible stats, which you can buff slightly thanks to the Overseers. You can have them eat other orcs while they still don't have an Overseer to gain bonus levels to put them on par with some of the other tier 1 units, which is impressive how much experience you can actually just milk out of just eating other orcs. For example, these orcs have got some levels thanks from eating some other units, and you can typically get, after eating 2 full orc hordes, at least level 3, which is it's difficult to do when you're in the middle of a battle. But if you've got some free time and you're just trying to get that level for Sauron, you should do it. It definitely helps. And also just getting 15 of these because they're cheap and easily accessible. You can get a double barracks, run the banner, extra recruitment speed. It just means you can spam them out even quicker. And they have got a lot of buffs to make them better, but there's a point where the buffs don't actually give you as much as you would hope for, just because, again, they're orcs. But you should never expect amazing odds with these orcs. You should always just expect competence. Number 27, the Shadow Guard. A lot of people are going to wonder why I've put this unit so low on the list. And there's quite a few reasons, actually, that I didn't really think about too much when I was doing the Ranking Heroic unit video. But I'm going to mention a bit more now. This unit is a bit of a scam. You've got to pay a lot of money for it. And the only thing it really does is fight in melee. And if you're not having them fight in melee, they're useless. So, why have I put them against so low? Is because their ability weakens them to then heal other units. But to be able to heal other units, they have to be able to attack an enemy. Which means they're going to be at the very front, taking all the damage, presumably. Unless it's a certain... There's going to be a few situations where you can actually get a good heal off from these guys. But the fact you have to have them in the front lines, doing all this damage, to then heal your troops and expecting them to live through that is two very different expectations. And even later on, all it does is then heal heroes, and then they can buff a hero and buff themselves, and if the hero dies, they die. They have got some potential. It's just a shame that they have to lose so much to gain so little. Number 26, the Orc Hunters. You should already know by now why I've bashed on this unit so much in the past. Because they made it a sub-heroic unit that you can only get 4 of. They're your only unit you can build from your Orc pit until you expend another 1,000 of your resources to get the other good Urukai. But also the fact they removed the actual bow toggle that they used to have. They no longer can actually wield their bows permanently. They just can shoot the hunter arrows, and then they get more movement speed, which is... And then the Bloodthirsty ability, once they reach level 5, it lets them heal, which is better than the Shadow Guard healing, because at least they don't lose damage to have that heal. But it still doesn't make up for the fact that you can only get 4 of them. They are only slightly better than other tier 1 infantry. The fact there's only 10 of them makes it even less impressive on that fact. And also, they have the goal to say you have to level them up to make them stronger. And Isengard has 2 ways of leveling up these hunters. Firstly, you can get them to level 2 if you have Lurts on the field, if they're not already level 2. And then you can spend some time getting Saruman. 4,000 resources to make this unit viable. I've got to have to pass. Sorry, you guys. You used to be so fun. I want to see the day where you are no longer a restricted unit and I can just make more of you. Number 25, the Rohan Peasants. With everything this unit can get, it is exceedingly rare to find a unit that I would consider using at all stages of the game. And this unit does it really well. Having this unit around has made me want to have more flour mills in my main base, just so I can keep spamming this unit out in the first 10 minutes of a game. Just having the draft ability, making it so you can get this unit with their upgrade, is incredible. The fact you have to wait a little bit until you can get this draft ability on more than one flour mill makes it so you don't snowball out of control immediately. But it's not very hard to, because you can just take all undrafted peasants and send them to Corrupted Theoden and turn them into turncoats when they're about to lose their last few entities to get even more value out of them. There's so much this unit is capable of. And it's staying this low down just because that is pretty much it. That's all it really has. It defends the flour mills with extra vigor, but other than that, you've got a lot of other potential with Rohan that just makes this unit outclassed very quickly. Sometimes almost immediately once you get an exile camp. For all the times anyone seen my 2-player map games, you can see immediately I go exile camp and never really look back on peasants. Number 24, the Lerrian Warriors. Move faster if there's less of them around. Deal more damage if you have them ambushing from trees and you press a button. Which is not as difficult to do nowadays as it was back many years ago when doing the ambush of the Wood Elves actually required you to stand still and use it. Now you've got Haldir, who can just stealth units around you. You've got the Veiled Mist, which can stealth the units around in the area. You've got the Elven Wood, which stealths the unit permanently in the area. You've got so many ways now to make this unit viable. And they are really big damage tanks. And I imagine in PvP, a single unit of Lerrian Warriors is worth sending at least 2 of their units to try and deal with them. But by the time they arrive, they can just dip back out because they move faster than any other unit while they're still small entities and fewer units around them. It just makes them hard to catch up. So best thing to do against these guys, just kill them with cavalry. If you go against Lothlorien, if you know you're going against the swordsman instead of spearman unit, just trample them. That's your best route to kill them. Number 23, the Aridlin Guardians. They've got some decent mechanics to them. They can move faster than normal dwarves by default. They have an ability that helps them move even faster. And their little guardian trick is that these axes do triple bonus damage against units when they are flanking them. If you can flank them. There's a few times you'll never actually be able to deal a flanking damage attack to an enemy. And sometimes you will. It is really hard to gauge that reaction immediately. You can see a little flash of yellow whenever you are doing flanking damage. And with that extra movement speed, you can definitely just run these in and do what's basically a cavalry charge without taking any revenge damage. But then again, you could just run battle wagons or play the Iron Hills and just use Ram Riders, you know. This unit is still fun and is potentially the candidate for fastest moving infantry units. If you take into account foreign Oaken Shields, movement speed ability on top of their own movement speed ability. I've seen these units move. They are fast. Faster than anything. In fact, I'd say they're about... they close up to speeds of cavalry that are about half decelerated. Which is impressive, to say the least. It is very impressive. Number 22, the Dagabad Swordsman. This has probably got one of the best formations in the game, but it is very underrated. 30% movement speed, which is the same movement speed buff as the Aridlin Guardians can gain. So these guys can move as fast as Aridlin Guardians. Just add a reduction to damage and armor, which all that means you have to do is as you get into combat, just turn off the formation. You're not going to move. And if you need to run away, turn on the formation, run away. If the enemy's not chasing you, who cares? They're not going to hurt you. Obviously, it has a few negatives against cavalry in particular. It just makes you even more of a target. But if you get King Brand to get out his sword and throw these guys into melee as well, you can very quickly negate the negative effects of the formation. But it is definitely the best movement speed increasing ability in general, because it's not passive. That requires you to have less in the vicinity. It doesn't require you to press the button and then have it for a temporary amount of time. You have this for as long as you have the formation up. And the unit moves fast to begin with. And it's a large entity unit as well, so that means you can have more of them move around the building and all of them can attack it at once. So it probably has the most potential for sieging, moving to and fro enemy buildings. It's impressive what these can do. I imagine in PvP it's seen more fluidly if people use it in PvP. It's just a thought. I'm not going to use it like that, but someone might. Although this might be changing with the Dale changes, so we're going to keep this as it is for now. It might change in the future. Number 21, the Gundabad Orc Warriors. Definitely not to be underestimated, not to be overestimated. I'd say this is a unit that has perfect balance. It is good, but requires a few things to make them work. Mostly the fact it requires a tier 2 barracks to recruit them, which requires either the Defiler or Azog, which are a medium-sized and a expensive-sized hero, which is not hard to get as the Goblins once you've racked up enough resources thanks to Scavenger. And there can be a time where you just recruit nothing but this. And you can get free recruitment buildings from here, although you should always get a forge as well. It just gives you a lot to work with, this unit. The extra attack speed they get after just attacking once means they have a lot to work with. But there's not really much else about them I can say. So they're going in the middle. Number 20, the Ironbreakers. I'm a little bit disappointed where I'm putting this unit, but from testing them, I believe this seat is warranted. Their toggle ability, which is the only thing unique about them, is that they can wield pickaxes, which knock back enemy units. And it says on the actual thing here, it just says reduces attack speed. However, on the Edain wiki, it says reduces armor. And it does reduce their armor by 40%. Meaning that not only is this other form dealing no extra damage, all it does is knock down the enemy it's hitting. And it doesn't knock down every unit. I've tested it against wargs. I'm taking it that large entities cannot be knocked down. So it only works against infantry. This unit needs looking at. There's a few problems with it, and I love this unit, so I want to see this unit put back on the pedestal it belongs. But right now, it belongs here because it needs some fixing. After that, I'm happy to make it feel better again. But I have been disappointed by this unit quite a lot recently because I didn't realise that it also reduced their armour. I thought they removed it. They have not removed it. Number 19, the Guardians of the White City. That's right, I spent my time trying to find the One Ring just to prove why I'm putting this unit here. It is awesome. It is a very cool unit that requires you to get the ring and give it to Boromir. And you can get a lot of them, despite the fact it is a heroic unit. And the ones you summon through Boromir are free of upkeep. Do you want to know what the problem is, though? They have nothing unique about them. All they do is make other units around them fearless. And the reason I stopped there is because I just wanted that to sink in. Like, that is literally all they do. They have a fear resist aura. They have the same stats as the Citadel Guard, which honestly have way more utility. And I still put them as low as I did in this ranking pikeman video. But this unit, it's still cool. It's just it has a massive requirement behind it, which you're not always going to fulfill because you might not always have the ring hero active. But just knowing this unit exists makes you want to get it. Makes you want to give Boromir the ring to then make this unit possible. And in a way, it's a good thing to do that because it also gives them forge blades and heavy armor, which is kind of cool. But yeah, it belongs here. If they had something else to them that made them a bit cooler, like an aura that gave more damage or something, that would be cool. Number 18, the Mogul Orc Warriors. They may still be weak, but they got twice the health of every other kind of orc, so that makes them better. And then they just get even more damage and armor from Overseers, as on top of the fact they cost 0 from their fortress. And you can even circumvent the slow recruit speed from only having the one outpost by getting Call the Horde. So yeah, you should definitely always get this unit after a certain point. Once you have it, just spam this unit. Have the full 20, get it rolling constantly. Don't ever stop. This unit can do amazing things. And I'm not just saying that because I've seen them survive charging from quite elite cavalry, mostly Rohirrim. Number 17, the Unburned. This unit is in a really good place. It definitely deserves being this good. And unfortunately, it would be higher if it weren't for the fact that its ability classes as a charge. So if it was to charge into pikemen, it gets hurt really badly with its ability. It gives extra damage and speed, which is amazing. Really amazing. But then you got to come up with the consequences of, oh dear, I'm accidentally charging into pikemen. What am I now going to do? You've just got to sit there and take it, sadly. And this unit cannot really sit there and take it. It just gets slapped really hard by the revenge damage. Still good though. Still good, still fast, still strong. Slightly weaker than other elite dwarf units, but definitely should not be taken for granted. You can get this unit and just spam it out constantly in the late game with the dwarves of the Aridlin, thanks to all their heroes. Number 16, the Soldiers of Meduseld. They don't need to impress anyone because they're already doing their job and doing it really good. Their passive ability for choosing the Soldiers of Meduseld is that they do bonus damage and gain armor against pikemen. On top of the fact they are already swordsmen, which is actually amazing. It just means that any pikemen that cross your path will just get slapped, which as Rohan is exactly what you want. You want to be able to slap down on an enemy unit. It's a shame of how expensive they are, but you can definitely get their value out of you can definitely get value out of the money you spend on this unit. Just be making sure you actually manage your economy well, because otherwise you'll find this unit will just tank your economy and then you'll have nothing left. Number 15, the Arnor Palace Guard. Just take a second and appreciate the beauty of this unit. They're so well done. Anyway, they've got the block formation of their basic soldier counterparts, which is already amazing. To say they are basically the Fountain Guard of Gondor, given to Arnor, which is very, very powerful. So let's just say that. Secondly, they've got a ability that they unlock at level 5, which sadly all it does is give bonus experience to everyone else. But considering that extra experience gain leads to more damage and armor until you reach level 5, it is really impactful having one of these units stay alive long enough to get that leadership buff, because it can prove that quite valuable. It's a shame that you can only get it at level 5. If you've got it a little bit earlier, that would have been probably would have been a bit too powerful, which is probably why it is where it is. And this unit has not really been changed since the mod came out. Arnold's not really seen any changes since Edain was released. I hope they do something to give it a bit more flavour, which is hard to say because it already has got a lot of flavour compared to Gondor. Number 14, the Blackurakai of Mordor. This unit should not be underestimated, as is to be expected with all the units of Killer Thungal. But I feel like this unit is probably the one that falls behind the most out of all three. And there's a reason why it was not changed along with the other two units. This has a lot of potential. It does Orc damage, so it does way more in the late game than it does in the early game. They're free of command point cost, so you can have all three of their units out at once without needing to worry about your command point cap, which is really good for Mordor in particular. But they are limited to 3, and you need to build an expensive outpost to get them. But then again, if you forget about those two restrictions, they're really good. They are really, really good. And considering that Shagrat, your scout hero, can make 3 of these appear permanently on one of your buildings every time he uses his level 1 ability, is really good. They are a lot better as a defending unit than they are as an attacking unit, because especially for Mordor, in large blobs, they're not going to always be at the front attacking. But when they do attack, oh, you better watch out. You better watch out, because this unit will slap you, and you'll feel that slap for years to come. Number 13, the Iron Hills Guardians. The tankiest tanks that ever tanked. With an extra 30 armor being able to be gained from a passive ability for honestly a really decent amount of time, along with the tower shields for even more protection, this unit can do literally anything it sets its mind to, until it dies, because unfortunately they are a little bit slower than their Aridlin counterparts. But even taking away from that, they're still amazing, cheap, and definitely not to be underestimated by anyone that comes near them. They will hit you hard, and there's a good chance they'll survive to tell the tale of how hard they slapped you. Number 12, the Rivendell Blade Masters. When they became a tier 1 unit, I was ecstatic, because I love seeing this unit in battle when I would get it out back in the old day. But back in the old day, you had to get it to tier 2. And against any faction where you can get a tier 2 Rivendell barracks back when it first came out, you'd be fighting Mordor or you would never get this unit. Honestly, it was unfortunate how little I could get of this unit. And now they've made it a tier 1 unit. I love using it in every game. Unfortunately, after the first 15 minutes, I'd say this unit starts to fall off, because all it is really meant to do is deal with units that have no armor and low health, because they hit hard, they hit fast, and they do bonus damage against non-heavy armored units once you unlock their ability, which is really good. But of course, as I said, they can fall off, but you've got another unit to take its place. Number 11, the Dagabad Swordsman. Oh, you should not underestimate this unit. You see this unit, and if the player you're going against, or the AI you're going against, is smart enough to use their ability against your heroic or elite units, you should possibly consider walking away from that fight. I'm not going to show you the whole list of what they're strong against. Go to the Edain wiki, because apparently there's quite a few units that I thought weren't elite, that are classified as elite units, that will just get shredded by this unit if they have their ability procced. It's amazing what they are capable of. They're still a bit fragile to cavalry, as most swordsmen are, but you should not let that be a defining factor. They will kill any foot troop that stands in their way. And with Mornemorph, they can be turned into a useful battery for his power, or be used to siphon siphon their life force to give back to the commander of Kazadoo. Number 10, the Rivendell Guardians. These boys hit hard, and not only that, they will destroy your armor in two different ways. One, with their basic attacks. Two, with their masks. Which just means if you have armor, no you don't. No you do not. And that synergizes so well with your faction because it buffs the Erebor axe throwers. You can do even more damage with your phalanx if you put them on their different formation. This unit is a cornerstone of your faction and should not be taken for granted. You should always have one of these around for almost the entire game, I'd say. If not for the entire game, because it just gives you so much more when you have this unit around. Which, let's be honest, if you don't have this unit around, you should consider getting more of them. Number 9, the Rivendell Swordsman. Oh, anyone that knows me should know very well why I'm putting this unit so high up. Compared to the Lasarnak Axemen, this unit is the GOAT. You should always go for this unit, no matter who you're playing against, no matter what time in the game it is, unless they are going nothing but heavy armor, because this unit will deal bonus damage to anything without heavy armor, always. It does not matter what the enemy is. It does not matter what they have, what they care about, what they cherish, what they love. You have the power to beat them up more than any other unit with the same stats as every other unit in your roster. Every melee unit, all three, Gondor, Soldiers, Lasarnak Axemen, Rivendell Swordsman, Dale, Laketown, all 15 entity units of order have the exact same stats. And these guys just slap them all out of the competition. The only time they're not good is, again, against heavy armor, because that's when their damage becomes the same tier as everyone else. It's not even weaker, it's the same tier as everyone else. And again, they do the same damage as everyone else. So it's not even like they're losing something by going against someone with heavy armor. You should always just go for this unit. And if you go for the Baragon cheese like I have in the past, you can just get these errand riders constantly and just spam this unit out for only having to pay the charge of 400 for the signal fire, which honestly is stupidly good. Number 8, the Urukai Swordsman. Being able to get instant level 5 just by spending money is in itself a bitch move, let's be honest. But not only that, but you can also equip shield bearers to them to get rid of their one weakness, which is cavalry. And then this unit can kill anything. Nearly anything. With a level 5 stat boost and their weakness to cavalry removed, it makes them hard to counter. Quite honestly, a ridiculous unit on nearly every degree. Plus, I'm actually going to mention a bit more about the shield bearers. They are can be classed as a sword unit, but I actually have something else planned as to where I want to do with this. So I have not put them on this list, but I am mentioning them as part of this because they're as close to the Urukai swordsman as you can expect. They're both amazing, can be buffed by Ugluk and Lurtz for extra damage and armor and healing, and even if you can't get the captains, you can get bonus experience from Saruman. And also, all the upgrades they get, on top of all the upgrades, on top of the upgrades from the Steelworkers, just means that there's few units in the game that can counter the sheer spam and raw power of fully upgraded level 5 Orokai. There isn't much that can compete. Number 7, the Merkwood Swordsman. Remember when I said the Iron Hills Guardians were the tankiest tanks that ever tanked? Well, this unit can literally become a wall. An impervious wall that just sits there, doesn't let anyone cross it without having to expend a lot of time and effort punching through about 100% extra armor on top of their already amazing stats, and then also being able to knock down any infantry that dares come near them, while archers in the back line just kill anything that comes close. It's difficult to come past this unit. It's so tanky. So tanky. Biggest weakness, of course, being the unit clumps up when you put it in this formation and it deals no damage. But other than those two weaknesses, the strengths are very considerable and honestly terrifying. With so many ways to buff their armor on top of what they already have, it makes this unit capable of acting like a literal barrier to your most powerful damage dealing units, which with a faction that has some good melee heroes in the mix just makes for a good way to keep your best units alive. Number 6, the Castlelands of Dogledor. Big damage, big health, easy to access, good interactive abilities, and can even reduce the damage from their weakness, which would be units with elemental damage, which would be archers when they get their upgrades. If you can get this unit high enough level. It is quite difficult to miss this unit in a blob of Mordor orcs, and it's quite easy to hit them, but if you don't, then you're going to feel much pain from just leaving this unit alive long enough to hit anything, because wherever it hits will probably die. And there's so little that actually counters this in melee. You just have to go ranged units to stand a chance. At the AI, when they throw this unit down, I have to either run away or get some archers. Number 5, the Kazadoo Veterans. A unit which you can customize as soon as you get it, although you should always consider carefully about what you pick, because as I mentioned in the heroic unit ranking, not a lot of the choices they get are good. You should probably get either Axe and Shield or Axe and Axe, in my opinion, for 50% of your encounters with an enemy. You're not going to see many enemies where you don't just want basic slash damage at a very high amount of slash damage, and then get more of it by getting another Axe, or get classes having heavy armor against units that might have chop damage, you know, for those pesky Gondor Lerrian Swordsman. But also you can put this unit into your base to give your heroes heavy armor in the form of Mithril Mail, which is amazing. It just makes the dwarf heroes even more stupidly powerful. Or you can keep them around and have a unit that can cut through nearly anything, like it has a knife through hot butter. And unlike the Castlelands of Dogledor, this unit is quite hard to spot out of a crowd because every dwarf unit is the same height and quite quickly blends together when they're all clumped together. Especially with Erebor, when the gold and black trim just does not stick out at all. Number 4, the Rivendell Swordsman. Used to be Imladis's tier 1 unit, and honestly, I think they might have buffed it with its abilities, because their abilities feel so much better now they're tier 2. Oh my god, this unit has just everything going for it. Again, like I've said quite a bit recently. That's because That's why it's in the top 5. It deserves being number 4 because it has 2 interactive abilities which either give it knockback resistance and armor, or movement speed and damage. You can't use them both together, but both of them are perfect in nearly every scenario. Your faction has a center ability that makes both of those abilities come back quicker. They can attack fast. They can just get armored out, and it's amazing what this unit is capable of on the field. It's like having a pseudo elite on the field everywhere you go. And then at number 3, we have the Veterans of the Last Alliance, a unit that I ranked number 1 for the heroic unit tier list. Now it only gets number 3. And why? Because the potential for this unit is amazing, but you have to reach that level to make them amazing. They can reach level 20, which means their stats can go above and beyond anything I've ever seen for anything. It is so pleasing to get a level 20 Veteran Last Alliance unit, which then you can have an ability which gives you more damage, more armor, knockback resistance, and also experience gain to better get that level up. You can get the middle power and all 3 of these units together, use the abilities all together, and fight anything that is a elite tier or heroic tier unit, kill it off, and you'll gain about 20 levels just from doing that. It's impressive how much you can get. But again, the potential is amazing, but you have to get to that potential, and it is not as easy as you would think. And these other 2 units are just perfect from the get-go, and they deserve the top 2 spots. Let's see who got number 2. At number 2, we have the Dol Amroth Soldiers. And at first glance, you might think this unit's not that impressive. It's got the same stats as as every other elite tier unit. But what makes them stand out above everything else is the fact that they can buff all other nearby friendly infantry with 25% extra damage. Do you understand the gravity of that? All friendly units. If you're playing in a multiplayer game with friends and you have a single one of these units in an orc clump, that's 25% extra damage for all the orcs. In a Rohan Peasant spam, 25% extra damage for all those Rohan Peasants. Anything. Goblin spam, 25% extra damage. There is no limit to this unit's potential. It is bonkers what this unit can do just by existing somewhere. It is a rallying cry in the palm of your hand permanently. That only costs 500 resources from your outpost, which does not require you to have Imrahil, but Imrahil also buffs them with his ability, which gives them more damage or armor or both. And I can't really say much more. This unit's amazing. It has everything going for it, and it would be number 1 if it weren't for me doing a bit of testing and noticing a few quite ridiculous stats. So, who made it? If you've been paying attention, you'll know exactly who made it to number 1. That's right, the number 1 spot goes to the Arkham Guard. And there are so many reasons as to why this unit not only deserves this spot, but just crushes everything with these maces to gain the top spot. Their stats are actually stupid. They're actually heroic tier stats. 120 slash damage base per entity and 684 health per entity, which then can be buffed with the heavy armor that you can buy for them. On top of, if you give them the Forged Blades as well, they then get an extra damage and armor boost if you have the tier 3 power of the dwarves. They have King Dain, who has an ability which can give them extra bonus movement speed moving towards a certain location, which is perfect for a unit that has quite a low movement speed. But take away that one weakness they have, and then look at the fact that they have over 200 revenge damage. 200 revenge damage! Which then gets increased per level, per upgrade, per damage buff from leaderships. It's ridiculous how stupid this unit is. And I've not even gotten to the point of the fact they have an ability which is honestly busted. They gain Orc damage on top of even more damage. Like, honestly, this unit, I'm actually afraid this unit is going to come out from my monitor and just throttle me. That's how dangerous this unit is. Whenever I play against the dwarves and I see a single one of these units attacking my building, I think, well, that building's gone now. There's no way I can get anything close to stopping this unit. And when it destroys that building, it gets level 5 because the AI gets cheats and all that. But then level 5 stats on these Arkham Guard is terrifying. They have one weakness. They have one chink in their armor, and that is trolls. If you do not throw large monsters such as trolls at these Arkham Guard, you're going to lose everything. You have to throw everything at this unit. All your archers need to shoot this unit, and if there's a whole army of this unit, you need to pray for your life the person using them does not know how to use them. Because if they do, even a little bit, you don't even need to know how to use this unit. They are just stupidly good. And if you see an army of those spammed, throw all your powers down, summon the Balrog, wipe them off the field. You have to do it, because if you don't, you are going to die. Let that be a lesson for you. And on top of all of this, if the dwarves decide, oh, let's just use this last stand ability, then yeah, that basically just that tells you you are being told to walk away. Just walk away. Do not continue to fight them. You have lost your fight before the fight even begun. Just walk away. Honestly, I didn't think this unit would be as powerful as it is. I honestly did not see the potential of this unit when it first came out. I just thought it was a cool unit with cool abilities. It is so much more. It is actually terrifying what this unit can do. And it does it, and it does it well. It does it more than well. I can't keep saying compliments about it because otherwise it's going to take forever. And I've already gone through 39 units. It's crazy. Oh, I hope you've all enjoyed this. This display of power that is the Arkham Guard. I'm doing this on a very warm Friday evening. I am sweating so much. This has taken me 2 hours to record. And I do not even want to know how long this is going to take when I upload it all. But I hope all I have told you today, you will use to defeat every AI that stands in your way. And maybe beat down a few friends who think they were more powerful than you at the game. Anyway, I'm done. I don't know, I might need a shower after this. Bye!